This is called They Are With Us Still. In the struggles we choose for ourselves, in the ways we move forward in our lives and bring our world forward with us, it is right to remember the names of those who gave us strength in this choice of living. It's right to name the power of hard lives well lived. We share a history with those lives. We belong to the same motion. They too were strengthened by what had gone before. They too were drawn by the vision of what they might become. Those who lived before us, who struggled for justice and suffered injustice before us, have not melted into the dust and have not disappeared. They are still with us. The lives they lived hold us steady. Their words remind us and call us back to ourselves. The courage and love evoke our own. We, the living, carry them, Sandy, with us. We are their voices, their hands, and their hearts. We take them with us, and with them choose the deeper path of living. It's written by Reverend Kathleen McTeague. Yeah, I chose that reading. That's really feels perfect about how I feel for this gathering and for Sandy. I don't know if I was hoping even there might be some people from the movement come, even if they didn't know her, in the same way that when I have a big family, and if you have a cousin that maybe you didn't even know, but you go because it's your family, that's Sandy, because we in the movement, and I've been since 1989, and I got to say, what I read is so true. And as the years have gone by and picked up, more and more of our wonderful colleagues have died. I feel like nowhere else in my life. I feel the sense of connection, and having this relationship with those who are not here with us anymore. It makes me feel that much more grounded in this work that we do, and our bonds and our connection together, and my determination to do little I can. Having known Sandy, having been touched by her perseverance, by her grit, and her determination for dignity and justice and compassion for all. Mm-hmm. I hope you did have the pleasure to know Sandy. When we get I'll stop there, and we come to personal sharings. I'll go more into my personal, but I wanted to set it up that way and to say, whatever your experience of Sandy, thank you so much for coming here to pay respect to her life, and to that which we are all a part of, this movement for rights and dignity and justice, the movement, those with lived experience, but even beyond our movement, in the greater striving in life for dignity and justice for all. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, I've known Sandy since 1977. Wow. When she first moved to California. She taught school at the Lutheran school that my husband was principal of at that time. And what grade were you, Jonathan? Yeah. Third grade? Yeah. Yeah. And she was, when my son was in kindergarten, Sandy was his teacher. And then in third grade, Sandy was his teacher. We have remained friends ever since. And during holidays, she would join us, for Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner or Easter dinner. And yeah, she is going to be sorely missed. Okay.
Thank you, Janet.
Yes, I thank you, Janet, so much. And I do want to say, because my apologies and everyone, you and everyone else, I've just spoke, I, I'm so connected with Sandy in the context of this movement that I spoke as if that's what who was here. And of course, Sandy's not just an activist; she's a friend and a teacher and all that. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Oh yeah.
Love to hear more, and I hope there are others.
Thank you so much. Yvonne Smith from DC would like to speak. Yvonne?
Well, I can say that if it wasn't for Sandy, I probably wouldn't be on the Independent Living Council where I live, because she and David Oakes made me aware, because I was aware of the mental health movement, but I was not aware of the physical health movement. And even though Sandy had some physical disfigurements, I never saw that. I just saw her as a person. And so she was, like I said, she and David both were an inspiration to me to try to get the movements together, both the mental health and the physical health movements together. And like I said, it's sort of like we came of age at the same time. And I'm seeing a lot of people that are passing uh, that are in my same age group. And I wish that we would pay more attention to our elders, and to be able to honor people and do some other things. I went yesterday to a, what's this? I should say today is, I went yesterday to a journaling group, and we did something about this is your life. And I wish that we would do something like that so that we could hand it down to our descendants. So there's so much that we have to give, and we do not take the time to do that. And I'm always, this year I lost my sister. I'm always of the thing is, I wish I could call this person and ask them such and such. And so it's the same thing for Sandy, because she's not here. And I just want to encourage people to journal or do something like this is my life, because it seems as though we keep retracing things, and it's because people don't have the knowledge. And people like Sandy, like I said, gone too soon. And that's what I would say about her, is gone too soon. And I'm landing my plane.
Thank you, Yvonne. Is there someone else who would like to speak next?
I guess I will if no one else will.
Jane, thank you. Yeah.
I met Sandy in 2016 at Project Return when she graduated with her, peer support certificate. And over the past few years, we've been meeting on Zoom, usually on Sundays at 4:00, which is, I was thinking the memorial was at 4:00 today. But I'm so grateful to have known her. With her passionate warriorship in revealing the fear that we all seem to have toward disability and toward sickness and toward anything different. And I was raised on the Navajo reservation. I never believed that I belonged anywhere, but I feel that I belong to Sandy's tribe and that she gave us so much understanding to go by. And I'm just hoping like crazy that her writings will be saved. She was a brilliant writer, and I hope that somehow those will be revealed. The last few months, she would send me pictures of her garden, and she would also send me pictures of her paintings, and her paintings were all little dots, little tiny dots, and she was putting those paintings out in the garden. And she always loved to say that all of these different colors, all of these different dots move together to form the painting, and just beautiful, beautiful paintings that she was doing at the end. So thank you so much for holding this time for her, because she just needed to be remembered, and I think we'll remember her. Thank you.
And Barbara Myers. I knew of Sandy before I really knew her. I knew her best as a member of the board of the Unitarian Universalist Mental Health Network, of which I am the president. And she was a member of the board and brought her passion and her ideas and her, just commitment to try to do something about mental health. I didn't know she was a painter, and I didn't know her as a teacher. So I'm learning all kinds of things about her just today in this meeting. So I'm sorry that she died, and she will be missed.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Clara, you have your hand raised?
Hi, yeah. My apologies for it's nighttime over here, but I don't think I knew Sandy as long as some people. I only actually met her in I think 2022, and we met on a lived experience working group for a charity called Face Equality International that was and is working to dispel stigma about facial difference. And I always so much appreciated how wise Sandy was and how she always had really useful things to say and really useful things to unpack, including very cogent criticisms of the movement's leadership and some of the stances that it wanted to take. And she wasn't shy of the difficult questions, asking whether the movement was inclusive of people of different backgrounds and from different countries, and the relationship that children have with parents. You know, she really wasn't afraid of asking the difficult questions, and I really appreciated that. And we started talking, and we talked about trying to create a project together, or like an online magazine or something. I didn't have the time. I was sick for a bit, and her messages sort of waited in my Facebook Messenger, and I'm like, oh, I need to get back to them. And the callow youth, like I'm like I just expect she's gonna be there in 6 months, but she wasn't. And I regret that I didn't get to meet her sooner and get to share in her brilliance more. And I treasure the time that I did have with her, and I just want to carry forward because criticism and critique and analysis isn't just negative, it's really positive, and it helps us to re-examine what we're doing and what we're standing for. And I really appreciated that she was not someone who let good enough be good enough, but wanted to make things perfect and wanted to address problems that she saw forming at the very beginning rather than trying to fix them when they were too entrenched. And I really admire her spirit. I want to carry that forward with me.
Thank you, Clara. I think a lot of us wish we'd known her more, had more time to be with her too. Gretchen, you had your hand raised. Would you like to speak next?
Sure, thank you. This is Gretchen Mowney, she, they, and I am the Accessibility Resources Coordinator at the UUA, and I am based in Columbia, Missouri. Sandy was maybe the first person to reach out to me after I started my position at the UUA. I didn't know her beforehand, though having been a member of a Facebook group, Equal Access, started during the beginning of the pandemic. I had seen her name. I was blessed that from her because she reached out to me with support and a willingness to talk with me and share her just eloquently her thoughts and experience and wisdom on what's needed regarding accessibility and inclusion, disability justice within Unitarian Universalism, and just had some great exchanges with her. And it's her loss is a huge one to our community, and I am so sorry I wish I could have known her better, and I'm so sorry to her friends and family.
Thank you, Gretchen. Gretchen, can we ask where you are in the world? Oh,
Yeah, sorry. I am in Columbia, Missouri.
okay. Great. The person who would like to speak next, I don't see a raised hand, but if anyone else does.
Well, I wonder, Jack, I hope speak up if you don't, this is not okay, but I'm assuming that Jack wrote in the chat, and I'm so grabbed by it, I want to read what he wrote. Oh, but that's okay, Jack. As I knew Sandy most from personal email exchanges, webinar chat exchanges, and only brief in-person encounter at NARPA, and that's the National Association Rights Protection and Advocacy, she had an amazing appreciation and reverence for the spiritual depth of our existence, which cannot be captured with the words. Her presence, even on digital media, still communicated that depth, particularly when the focus was suicide and grief. She moved me with her empathy. Thank you, Jack.
Jack Yasek, would you like to say anything yourself, or your writing was good enough if you don't want to?
My apologies. Thank you so much for reading that. When you started, I thought, well, maybe I should say it for myself. But on the other hand, I'm was kind of frustrated. I was not easily able to connect with this um, memorial service going on right now. And when I arrived, I was frustrated. So I thought I would just leave myself silent and invisible, but participate through the chat. So my apologies. I'm not trying to draw attention to myself in particular. I'm just trying to be very respectful and honor her passing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. And you're sharing your frustration soothes and calms my own, because I'm supposed to be here and I'm 20 minutes with not being able to get on. Such is life, and such is the way that we, by being authentic and speaking what is alive in us, make space for our mutual connection. And the words, jump in, that she said, I'm going to go back to them. They were so beautiful, and it really connects, resonates, and to what I was saying before about this connection. I have often said, because it came to me one time and I liked what I thought, and I've said it many times, that one of the reasons I've continued with the movement over the years, because it's hard, it's been hard in a lot of ways. And one of the reasons is that we have an incredible wealth that you named. It's a spiritual wealth. And you spoke about Sandy, and I'm speaking about us. Obviously, we're human. We're not always there. We're not always, we're not perfect. But as a people, I think because most of us have been broken, or how are you say that, if I'm saying it is offensive the way I'm saying it, have experienced trauma or, distress, depression, anxiety, to disability, disabling, and has also had issues because of that, or other things, oppression, to feel disconnected from society, others. And that knowing that common, when we get together and we see our commonality and our humanity and our fellowship, there's a bond that's just fantastic, because we know what it's like to be in that, and to be able to come out of it at least enough, or at least for the day, to be with each other. And there's also this spiritual depth that says that we know, of course, we get caught up in this typical things about class or achievements, but we have an awareness of what we call in Unitarian Universalist the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We know that the worth, that we're worth it. We're worth recovery. We're worth support. We're worth loving, not because of what we do, not because of what we accomplish, just because we are. And she knew that, and spoke it. It was in the tone of her voice. And that's what we carry. So thank you, Jack. David.
Thank you. I'm David Loach, and I live in Louder's Creek, British Columbia, just north of Vancouver. And first of all, I want to thank you, Jane, for using the phrase passionate warriorship to describe Sandy, as I feel like that just lit up my heart, because I think it's very true and very accurate. I I don't know how long I've known Sandy, probably 20 years in various ways. Most recently for the past year or so in the facial difference cohort, a group of people with facial differences who are activists. And of course, Sandy was part of that as a group that was started by Sarah Kasura, who's here today also. And the fire that she brought was tremendous. I don't know if Sheila described herself this way, but I think of the Beatitudes: feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, and particularly comfort the afflicted. I think that was part of Sandy's deep heart. I'm really glad to hear all of you talk about her and such a rich and wonderful life, and her heart will live on. And thank you all.
David Oakes, would you like to speak next?
You're muted.
Yes, thank you, and thank you, Eugene and Philip and Jane. Thank you for your impetus to remember. Cindy, Deborah will repeat my brief sentences.
I'm Deborah, and I'll repeat David's brief sentences.
Because some people have trouble hearing.
Because some people might have trouble hearing.
But I met Sandy through Unitarian Universalism.
I met Sandy through Unitarian Universalism.
She really admired principles of openness and unity.
She really admired principles of openness and unity.
We've heard the phrase passionate warriorship.
We've heard the phrase passionate warriorship.
Jane, I think you said it.
Jane, I think you said that.
And that really sums it up.
And that really sums it up.
She loved our social change movements.
She loved our social change movements.
Primarily facial difference movement.
Primarily facial difference movement.
But also both mental health consumer movement.
But both mental health consumer movement.
And psychiatric survivor movement.
And psychiatric survivor movement.
Physical disability movement.
And physical disability movement.
And anti-racism.
And anti-racism.
I could go on.
And I could go on.
So our common word we talked about is bridge.
The common word we talked about is bridge.
And her passion is why we became friends.
Her passion is why we became friends.
She loved connecting like alternatives.
She loved connecting like at alternatives.
And when Philip was there.
And when Philip was there.
I mean, it was a skyrocket.
When Philip was there, it was a skyrocket.
And so I had the incredible pleasure. To work with Sandy for exactly 1 year.
To work with Sandy for exactly 1 year.
Almost every week.
Almost every week.
On our proposed book.
For
UU publisher.
For Unitarian Universalist publisher.
Reverend Microsoft got that going.
Reverend Myers helped get that going.
And we mainly addressed this bridge issue,
And we mainly addressed this bridge issue,
connecting us radical psychiatric survivors
connecting us radical psychiatric survivors
with more moderate mental health consumers,
with more moderate mental health consumers,
the physical disability movement.
the physical disability movement.
Thankfully, I was able to actually meet with Sandy
Thankfully, I was actually able to meet with Sandy
because NARPA had its annual meeting in September.
because NARPA had its annual meeting in September in Portland.
Yeah, National Association for Rights Protection and Advocacy.
NARPA, National Association for Rights Protection and Advocacy.
So, I mean, for me, Sandy, I had to work with you.
So for me, Sandy, I had to work with you.
I have challenges about writing books.
I have challenges about writing books.
And Sandy was non-stop.
And Sandy was nonstop.
I mean, a geyser could not be stopped.
A geyser could not be stopped.
And the no, Barbara, you remember the workshop we did with her?
Barbara, you remember the workshop we did with her?
Incredible. Just really articulate, there.
I mean, she was incredible, just articulate and really there.
So I don't want to take more time.
So I don't want to take more time.
But I will put my personal email address out in chat.
But I will put my personal email address out in chat.
And at our recent workshop.
And at our recent workshop,
Sandy identified about 5 or 6 key bridges.
Sandy identified about 5 or 6 key bridges.
And so I'd like to email that to anybody that please email me.
And so I'd like to email that to anybody. If you'd like it, please email me.
By the way, I do this in a number of Zooms.
By the way, I do this in a number of Zooms.
And often people do not email.
And often people do not email
So
me.
I'll put this in chat.
So I'll put this in chat.
And I want to get this little list of groups here.
And I what?
I'll get that group, those groups here. The links, those groups.
Oh, and pardon me. And I'll get the links to those groups
It
to you.
was Sandy's last wish.
It was Sandy's last wish.
Her last words were about our finish the book.
Her last words were about
Finishing
the book.
So we are going to do that.
So we are going to do that.
And I will organize a Zoom meeting to about this bridge idea.
And I will email a link too about this bridge idea.
We need to bridge
We need to bridge
physical, radical, mental health consumers, all of us.
physical, radical, mental health consumers, all of us,
Especially now.
especially now.
When the need for global revolution is so obvious.
When the need for a global revolution is so obvious.
Ain't just crazy.
And just crazy.
It ain't just.
Oh, it ain't just crazy. I'm sorry.
I mean, I love being crazy, but now it's for real.
Yeah. I mean, I love being crazy, but now it's for real.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks.
Hmm.
Oh, I didn't get some of that.
David, thank you so much. I do want to mention that we have everyone's email who's participating today. So David, I will send it to everyone along with the recording that we're doing of this. So we can get directly to everyone. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Sora is traveling today and yet is ready to come on. So please, would you like to speak now?
Hi there. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Hi. I just parked, so I felt like I don't think my message I was really frustrated as I typed my message because I think it just doesn't encapsulate um who Sandy is or who I saw her as. Sorry. My name is Sora, pronouns any all, and I am a Japanese American person with a facial difference. So Sandy, my first interaction with Sandy actually was in the adult facial differences group, and I was going to go serve on a panel and had put a note out to the group and said, does anybody have any thoughts that they want me to include when I go give this talk? And her message was, well, I hope you are talking about intersectionality, and I hope that you are including race, gender, LGBTQAQI, 2S plus, like, and that was my first like real interaction with her, and I was just like, okay, this is amazing. At first, she didn't mince words, but she was always speaking up for everyone. She was a champion of justice and equity, and she joined the Face Out Project. So the Face Out Project is just so new, right? It is in its baby stages, and she passed at around the 5 month mark. We're in our 7th month now, and she came into the group just so powerfully compassionate and with such fire. And I don't know that I have ever seen someone who has worked this hard with such, I heard the word geyser, right? With that kind of tenacity for so long. And she was always fighting for everyone. And it was just so beautiful. Like, she sent me writings that she did, and she talked to me about her advocacy over the years. And I was just floored by everything that she had done and who she is in this world, and how deeply spiritual she was, and how she just believed so hard that she just never stopped. And she catalyzed those two things that I mentioned in the chat. I mean, she was the one who came with projects, and she was like, I'm going to connect you. We're going to do this. And I'm just so grateful for her. I'm grateful that she's an ancestor now, and that she could just be with us through as we carry forward. And I'm grateful. I'm just grateful for her love and her compassion, and her work in all of the movements that she was a part of. And also, for everyone who's here, I would also love to stay connected. If you'd like to be connected, I'll drop my email also. Just anyone who knew Sandy and loved her is a kindred spirit, I think. All right. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Sora.
Well, I'd like to say something if no one else is speaking up right now. I'm going to tell you, I'm one of the people who has worked in what we call the consumer survivor movement, or Mad Pride, or many different names we've used for ourselves. And I worked for the National Empowerment Center, where there was an annual conference which was called Alternatives. It's been mentioned before how much Sandy enjoyed attending Alternatives. And the conference is organized by and for people who have had extreme states of emotional distress, or mental illness labels, or whatever we want to call it. And this conference happened every year, and different organizations were in charge of it. Well, in 2013, we were in charge of it, National Empowerment Center. and the others I was working with. And for some reason, the government said, well, the funding isn't quite here yet. We don't know if it's coming. And so we couldn't start planning the conference. And this was April of 2013. And we kind of didn't know what to do. It's like, some people were saying, what can we do? Why hasn't it been announced? We're like, well, the funding might come through. We're not sure what's happening with our funding source. Well, then one day we saw this change.org petition that was getting a whole bunch of signatures. And we're like, who is this person? Well, it was Sandy Goodwick. She started it all by herself. And the funding it just said, please release the funding. And she started talking about the alternatives conference and how much it meant to her. And she said, anyone else who's been to alternatives and wants to speak out about why it's important to them, please sign this. Well, so I immediately contacted her and said, hey, call me, let's talk. We appreciate this so much. So before long, we spread the petition. There were over 500 signatures. People had written all kinds of short notes about how much meeting with other people each year. This was about the 28th year that this conference had been held every year. Well, missed a few years in there, but it had been held 28 times at least. And so we, all these signatures came, and she, did what you do on Change to have them delivered to the powers that be. They're not the powers anymore, but the people that were in power back then. And within like less than a week, oh, the funding's available. We're so glad it came through. And then Sandy came to the conference. This was it was in Austin, Texas that year. We were able to organize it and hold it. And of course, I was so excited to meet her. She was not just enthusiastic. She was like, what can I do? What can I do? How can I help? And she's not just one of those people who said, how can I help? She's one who did it and showed up and stayed at where she was meeting people to help them get on the bus and whatever it might have been. And it was just such a delight to meet her in person. And since that time, I've seen Sandy and her name and her email so many times. I mean, she just speaks up for, like many of you have said, whenever she feels that some group is not being treated fairly or recognized or reached out to, she speaks up and she makes a difference. One email to somebody who has some power or ability to make changes, and it changes things. And I just can't imagine how many things she's changed in her whole lifetime. I'm really grateful to have known her. I'm grateful to be meeting the rest of you and hearing more about her life and all that she did. Thank you. Are there others who want to speak?
I don't know if you can see it.
Janet? Yeah,
Janet.
Sure.
Yeah, I am amazed about Sandy's second life or third life. I knew her in her first life of teaching in Lutheran schools. I knew her when she taught special ed in LA County. But, after, I still knew her and connected, but I didn't know all of the involvement she's been doing since she has lived in Washington State. It's like, wow, you guys. Yeah, I'm done.
No, thank you. Is there anyone else?
Yeah, take out the hat, maybe the stole, so I can be just Philip and personal. And I'm a little embarrassed because I have such a huge ego. I learned that, especially when I got hit by a truck 7 years ago and how it disabled me, and a lot of things changed. It's a spiritual blessing to realize how much my ego has interfered. But the truth is that, I like to talk about Sandy, but the thing that all the things that have been said, and the fire and the commitment and the advocacy and the not settling. My God, how do you not settle? How do you like not? You know, I so admire that. But the truth is, I love to be loved. we all, I mean, hungry for it. I might pretend like I don't or have the defenses, and Sandy came to a workshop that I led. I don't remember which one it was, many years ago. And she was just so childlike in her appreciation, ecstasy. And it touched me. And then, of course, she heard that I'm a Unitarian Universalist minister, or I've served congregations as minister. And when she found out, she was Unitarian Universalist, and then she went off like fireworks. She just came back to me, and she was so happy, because at a place, and in later years she's shared a lot of complaints, because you use, like the rest of us, I'm proud of us today hearing about this movement talk and how we feed it, but we're imperfect. We're like everybody else, and she had a lot of complaints. But I know it meant so much to her, and specifically to have a place with that even would talk about and aspire to, hold everybody in the circle, and acceptance and these things. And so to have a place that was her be represented, she was so grateful, and it moved me for a long time. We've stayed in touch, and as I said, for the last years, I haven't stayed in touch with people since my accident. I'm getting better all the time, reclaiming abilities, and that's an important ability to focus now. I'm around it. But she is one of the handful that I would stay in touch with, and said what was going on, and she always responded. She always responded with a lot of fire, has been said. My phone is telling my battery's low, and maybe that's a good cue of you're going on too long. I just, Dan, I'm trying to be vulnerable, honest. It is like, as much as the admiration is there and the gratitude, that the love, her enthusiasm, and I'm glad to have been loved by her, and I loved her. Thanks.
Which was late August, that the National Empowerment Center held. And she sent us a message after and said, I have never felt so included. I should read the exact message, but it's basically, I've never felt so included and so apart and so seen than I have during this webinar today. And it was just wonderful. And she said, I'd like to suggest is that you continue doing this webinar on DEI. Do I dare even say that nowadays? But I'm glad we're doing a whole series. She said, let's do one on facial differences, and we'd like, I'll help organize it. And so a couple of people from National Empowerment Center met with Sandy, and we were organizing it, and then Sandy passed away. And we were certainly, sad to see that she was no longer with us, but that webinar is going to be on January 31st. And we will send everyone who's here, you had to do your emails to register. So we will send you all notice of the exact link. It's going to be a whole webinar on being with and living and appreciating people with facial differences, but we're going to dedicate that to Sandy.
Yes, so we can all of us, let's get the word out for that. Do some reach out. Some people, if people with facial differences, because in in her honor and all the struggles and her persistence, when she talked to me about the NEC, she was so excited, and it was clearly monumental, and I thought, this is fantastic. She persisted, and now it's going to blossom. It's going to move, and we never know where it's going to go forward. But I have faith, and this will be a good thing, and let's help it be a good thing in her name.
Yeah. And as Philip said earlier, just your presence is enough. Even those of you who haven't chosen to speak up, we really appreciate your presence.
This is at Project Return. That's Jason Garcia, a major activist in LA County, and Richard Skizanoski on the right behind Sandy. And I had called up the poem on the screen, so this is called Sister Struck the Rock. Sister struck the rock in the water. Water sprung out, gushing in a sparkling, tumbling rumble of clear, cold kindness for all of us who are so thirsty and so different, wounded by bullying and battering and stinginess by those who will not understand and wouldn't even want to. She struck the rock, and we laughed that freedom, splashing crazy in the fountain so we can go on, flowing along the cleansing prescription of ice cold crystal in a desert of fire. Oh, Sandy would have said, if you ever felt like this in your bones, the cry in your ears, throats, and hearts tied up in restraints, the pain would kill you for years. They don't even look at us in the face, much less study the unease of disease they've spread. And it ain't like we not been the damners and the enemies ourselves, doing to them as they done to us. But a promise wells up, choked back down until spoken open, to seek mercy, to build inclusion as gathered here. Why we don't bring down our pretty things and good things tonight, to rest in the garden of her leaves of shadow, before taking our bed of sorrow up again to finish it.
Thank you, Jane. You wrote that poem, is that what? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, let us hold these words. Hold you in our circle. Take these words to your heart. Recognize the truth. She is held in our circle. She remains part of our circle. And as we continue to hold others in our circle, she will be with us. Let's remember her and our connection. Thank you all so much for being here today. Blessings. Thank you.